Welcome to Laguna Woods Stories, the program where we meet interesting people who live here in Laguna Woods. And once again today we have a very interesting person. This is Marcy Scheinwold. Did I say that right, Marcy?
Absolutely.
Good. You never know with that EI combination for sure which way it goes. But,
yes.
And Marcy has for the past 9 years been president of the foundation of Laguna Woods Village. And we're going to find out much more about the foundation before the program is over. But first we want to find out a little bit about Marcy. So Marcy, I take it from what I've learned about you that you started your journey in probably New York State. Is that right?
Yes, I was born actually in New York City. And after I graduated from college and got married, my husband and I moved out to Suffolk County, which is on the more eastern part of Long Island. And we lived there, I'm going to say, over 30 years. Oh,
wow. So you did your preliminary schooling in New York City schools then?
Yes, I went through New York City public schools. Actually went to the City University. I went to Queens College. And then after we moved to Suffolk County, as I said, I taught initially in Port Jefferson.
And what were you teaching?
I taught English and reading. I was an English major as a...
At the high school level?
Secondary. I think it was, I was in the middle school or junior high school at that time when I was teaching. But then I finished my master's at Stony Brook University in what they called liberal studies, and my girls were born. I have 2 children actually under a year apart. So that kind of took over my life for a while.
It does.
But when they started kindergarten, because they were both in the same grade, I went back to graduate school, and I got a master's in hospital administration.
Really?
At Stony Brook, yes.
Wow. Okay.
And I worked in the health field for many years, for several years. And I met a gentleman while I was working for a federal health planning agency. I was the director of planning. I met a gentleman, Michael LeGrandi, who, unbeknownst to me, became the supervisor of the town of Islip.
Oh, yes.
Which is actually the 6th largest municipality in New York State.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
it's not a city you hear a lot about, but
no, you don't. But we do have an airport, and one of our claims to fame, unfortunately, is we were the home of the garbage barge that couldn't find a place to rest.
Oh my!
But it was a municipality of 300,000, and he called me shortly after he was elected to office and said, would I like a job? I said, excuse me? And he said, I'd like you to be our Commissioner of Human Services. And so I worked there for 8.5 years and headed up a Department of Human Services. Which included senior citizen services, Meals on Wheels, the Youth Bureau, a hotline. I ran a drug and alcohol program, handicap services, and I also ran a program geared to more low-income residents. We did the USDA summer lunch program when the schools closed. Islip was unique. It had Bayshore, Brentwood, and Central Islip, which were communities of significant poverty.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we had programs targeted to those communities, and that was part of my responsibility. I loved it, but I had a funny quirk along the way. I did a project with the town attorney's office. Islip had 2 of the largest hospitals in the world within its boundaries. Really? They were state psychiatric hospitals. And when Governor Rockefeller decided to deinstitutionalize the residents,
Yeah.
he said, well, we can let them out, give them medicine, and they'll be fine. Well, fine was a word subject to interpretation.
That was a mistake, I think we learned in retrospect, that was made all over the country.
Yes.
The mental institutions of various sorts all went away.
True, and we had communities that were severely impacted because the hospitals were within our borders.
Oh, yeah.
So I worked with the town attorney's office. They dealt with the regulatory portion, and I worked on the service portion. But what happened is I got hooked on the law.
Uh-huh.
And I was in my early 40s and decided to go back to law school.
Okay.
And so I did.
Pretty demanding curriculum. So I see in your information you got a Juris Doctorate in law, or
Yes,
from Truro. Is that how you say
Yes, Truro. Yes, I graduated from there. It was 4 years at night because I worked full time while I was going, and I worked as an attorney for 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked at initially out of the biggest firm on Long Island, and then I went off on a small splinter firm that my team leader started with two of his partners, and I stayed there. After the first 5 years, I stayed there for 18 years.
Did you have a specialty in your practice of law?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I primarily represented doctors and hospitals when they got sued, given my master's in hospital administration.
I see, yeah.
And it was a wonderful field. I worked with talented clients. You know, they were doctors, most of them, or hospital administrators. And the subject matter on each case was different. And it was always a challenge, but I was never bored. I loved it. And I retired when I was 68. I left.
Wow.
My last case was not in healthcare, but probably one of my biggest challenges. It was a beach erosion case on Long Island, and
we have that here too.
I know, and I read the news with particular interest because this myth that you can stop beach erosion by dumping sand, it is a myth. It doesn't work. Mother Nature wins.
Yeah. We've got plenty of evidence of that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Locally. Train tracks right along the very edge.
I know, that was not good planning, but, you know, who knew?
Who knew? Exactly. So you were a partner in a legal firm for years,
Yes.
and then you retired, and somehow you got to California. How did that happen?
Well, our younger daughter, I have two, had her first baby at 42, which was like this shock to everybody's system. And so we decided...
Especially hers, I suppose.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a long-distance grandma. So we decided to move. My husband was already retired. And so, as I said, I was 68. We moved to California. And I was fortunate. I got a part-time teaching job at Cal State Fullerton. I taught in their American language program. I taught international students business law.
Wow.
And it was wonderful.
Really? Yeah.
I had students literally from around the world and introducing them to the American legal system, you know, peripherally, helping their vocabulary and giving them certain basic legal principles.
Teaching difficult concepts to students with, I would guess, for the most part, impaired language skills.
Limited
In
language.
English, anyway.
It was to get them geared up to be able to cope with an MBA here in the States. But I will tell you, the most interesting thing that we did as part of that curriculum, I took them to visit the Superior Court in Fullerton. And they were fascinated, and I have to say the people in the courthouse were just as fascinated by my students, some who came in full burqas. So it was a positive experience for all involved.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. And how did you happen to come to Laguna Woods Village?
By accident, I guess, to some extent. My husband and I had read an article in the New York Times about how people kept their mental acuity by playing bridge, and we were both bridge players. And so he said, we really should look into this place. And when we were out visiting our daughter, we contacted a realtor here who took us around. And so it was an excellent decision. It was a good move. I'm very happy that we made that decision.
Now, somehow they found you and persuaded you to be president of the foundation of.
Well, I didn't come on as president.
No, probably not. But yeah, so tell us about your involvement with the foundation. And tell us what the foundation is.
Well, the foundation is the village's very own charity. We are a 501c. We're federally recognized, and we register with the state of California. In brief.
And that means, by the way, any donations given to or through the foundation are income tax deductible.
Absolutely, and we provide that information to all of our donors. The easiest way to describe the foundation is we are the village safety net. It's hard to imagine because most people here are relatively comfortable. But there are events that take place in people's lives that change that.
Yes.
Many people move here as a couple. And they have.
I did, and then I've lost my wife since I've been here, so.
So you know the reality of losing one Social Security check.
Yes.
And that reality of losing a Social Security check can dramatically change somebody's financial status.
I moved to a smaller place.
Yes. People change, their lifestyle. They make other accommodations, but sometimes the accommodations don't work. Maybe it's a very cold winter and the Edison bill is just very high in order to stay warm. Sometimes it's somebody who's in the hospital and comes out, and Medicare doesn't pay for caregiver services. And so how will they provide that extra assistance to make it in their manner? They need somebody to come in and help them shower, maybe to go shopping, take them to the doctor. Those financial issues are what we address. What happens usually is somebody is identified through social services. That's the entry point.
Now, is this social services within Laguna Woods Village?
Yes.
Okay.
We work hand in hand with them.
Because there's also social services available through the county.
No, this is the village. There is, but we work with the village social services.
Right.
And what we do is when somebody is identified to us, we provide temporary financial assistance to get them over that hurdle. And I have to emphasize it is temporary. We're not a welfare agency. We don't have the resources for that. But we will pay those emergency bills. We will pay the Edison bill, the caregiver bill. Maybe your hearing aids need to be repaired. We'll pay the repair bills. We do not give money to a resident. We pay the bill. But there's something that's very important for people to realize. All of the assistance we give is confidential.
Oh, that's good.
Nobody on the foundation board has any idea who gets our assistance.
Is that right? Not even the board members?
No, board members. I'm the president. I don't know. What happens is I will get a request from social services, an email, that myself and another board member have to approve. And all we get is a case number. There's no name, there's no address, there's nothing on there that in any way identifies the person. So it's all confidential, and it works. You know, my next door neighbor could get assistance from the foundation and I would have no idea. And I think that's important for people in the village to know,
because there's a sense of shame of not being able to take care of yourself or something like that people feel, whether or not it's justified. So.
It shouldn't be justified. You know, and I say this to groups when I go out and talk. You never know when life is going to throw you a curve.
True.
You know, none of us have seeing eyeglasses that look that far into the future.
Right.
But there's something very special about the foundation. And I was thinking about it as I was coming here to talk to you this morning. There's a lot in the media about the polarization of American society, that people can't talk to each other, that they can't communicate in a way that's meaningful, that they get locked into these adversarial positions. I can honestly say that the foundation survives because it doesn't do that. I meet people from every corner of the village, from every ethnic background, religious and political background. And they contribute to the foundation because they truly believe in its philosophy of neighbors helping neighbors.
So the money that you have, that you, the foundation, have to disperse is all donated, is that right?
99% of it is donation.
Okay.
And that's money from the village. We only help people who live in Laguna Woods. We don't help anybody outside. Recently, we've been fortunate, and last year we got a grant, and this year we got a grant from Memorial Care, Saddleback Hospital.
Right.
Last year, the grant was to purchase emergency response devices. And at present, the foundation is renting about 80 of them for village residents who are at risk of falling but can't afford the rental fee. This year, the grant is a little different. It's to help people purchase hearing aids. It's funny. We looked at the issue of loneliness. Each year we try to have a focus, something. And this past year it was loneliness. And one of the biggest contributing factors to loneliness is the inability to hear. If you can't hear, you can't communicate. And you increasingly become closed out of connection with other people.
Yeah, I kind of know how that works. I'm now wearing hearing aids, but for a while I wasn't hearing very well, and I would pretend to hear people so as not to embarrass them or be embarrassed, but really didn't know what they were saying. And after a while, you give up on that game and you isolate. So.
And yes, and if people listening to this discussion today, if you suspect that you have hearing loss and you cannot afford hearing aids on your own, or maybe you have insurance that will pay part of it, but you need some help to get the full payment, I suggest you go to social services, which is on the first floor of the community center at the back of the building, and request that you be assessed for financial assistance for hearing aids. That is what the grant is for.
So people can just walk into the community center and
they can request an appointment.
I see. Okay.
And they can also call 949-597-4267 and request an appointment and tell social services why they're calling, what their need is. It may not be hearing aids.
Sure.
Maybe it's assistance with their Edison bill.
Tell us some of the range of things that you are able to help people with. You've mentioned a couple.
Well, one of the things that we're helping people with is because there are many people who have difficulty financially making ends meet. We transport people without transportation to the food pantry.
Oh.
If they go to the food pantry, we do this at least once a month, they can get a week's worth of food once a month.
For free.
And so that's a big assistance. Some people who, again, are having trouble making ends meet, we provide grocery cards through social services, and they can go shopping at Stater Brothers. We provide gas cards for people. We have many people here who are still working and need assistance paying for the gas to get to work.
Wow.
So we do that. We also provide taxi vouchers through the New City program. We provide scholarships for Alzheimer's daycare. If there are people with dementia or Alzheimer's who need assistance taking care of their loved one, we do provide that financial assistance. We also are the default funder for Meals on Wheels. We provide funding to Age Well for Meals on Wheels. And recently, we started a new initiative with the Florence Sylvester Center that if you had not been to the senior center and you arrived by bus because we wanted to encourage you to get involved, we gave you free lunch for a month.
I saw that. It's very, very tempting to do. I didn't do it, but
We had
tempting.
many people do it, and what was interesting is people who stayed on at the senior center beyond their month because they found the activities there engaging. And that was part of our initiative to address loneliness.
And,
we-
and the lunches, even if you have to pay for them, are inexpensive.
They're about $4.50.
Yeah.
They're not terribly expensive, but we wanted to entice people to get out and get involved. We also wanted people to get used to taking the village bus,
Right.
to realize that there were other options if they got on the bus in terms of what they could explore.
Safer options than some of us old-timers driving.
Yes, I think so. There is one other thing that we're doing also with memorial care. Because about half of the emergency room admissions to Saddleback Hospital are due to falls,
Oh, yes.
we provide fall prevention classes. And they will start up again after the new year in March. They are free to residents, and they sign up through recreation.
A lot of fairly common sense things that people can do to greatly reduce the probability of falling. So that's good.
Well, one of the things is check for scatter rugs in your house to
Yeah.
make sure that you're not tripping over your own, decor.
Yeah. And leaving other stuff lying around, too, is
Yep.
dangerous. But
One of the things is you don't realize how the foundation can touch people's lives. There was a husband and wife. He was severely disabled. We helped them buy a power chair.
Oh,
That changed his life.
wow.
Last year, when we had the emergency response devices, a woman in her 90s had a stroke, and she had enough presence of mind to activate the device, and we saved her life.
Wow.
So when people donate to the foundation, not only are they helping their neighbors, but they don't realize that that donation, however small it may be transformative for their neighbors.
And this is December, holiday season, and for many people, gift-giving season or end of the year
Yes.
giving is a big thing. So I imagine you get a kind of disproportionate amount of your income in December.
We do, and many of the clubs in the village are extremely generous. The Men's Golf Club has sponsored the foundation for years. More recently, the Taiwanese American Club gave a sizable donation, as well as the Chicago Club, the Crazy Quilters. I don't want to omit anybody,
Right.
but the list of clubs is amazing. Yes. I think people understand that, as I said, you never know when you will need help.
Yeah,
And it's nice to know that help is available.
indeed. Yeah. If a person has never received a giving opportunity from the foundation, how do you make contact?
Well, we have a website, but the easiest way, all right, it's really simple. We have a donation box
Oh,
on the wall in the community center next to the ladies' and gentlemen's bathrooms on the first floor.
okay.
If you'd like to make a donation, you can just drop it in the box.
Do you specify something, or may you specify something you'd like the donation to go for? Or
You can, but in general, people don't. I mean, look, our core mission is to provide temporary financial assistance to
Right.
residents in need.
Yeah,
And that's our first priority in terms of the funding that we receive. I'm proud to say we have, to my knowledge, never denied somebody assistance for a legitimate request.
wow, that's quite a record.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
I had a board member who said to me once, "Do you have a budget?" I said, "Excuse me, a budget?"
how do you predict something like this?
You can't.
Yeah.
Our philosophy is we're here to help. As long as we have the resources, we provide that help. For example, during the pandemic,
Oh boy,
that first year, we fed all the volunteers who came to the village to do the vaccination clinic,
oh really?
so that it was easy for them to come here and work through the day. We also provided over $30,000 in grocery cards that year to village residents who were afraid to leave their homes.
Yeah. Wow.
Who would have predicted a pandemic?
Thank you for your contribution all these years, all this hard work, your concern, and thank you for coming in and sharing with us today.
Thank you, Tom, for having me, and I want to thank all of the people who support the foundation, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do today. And it truly is neighbors helping neighbors.